Welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. All who come here in the spirit of goodwill are welcome. However you find us, in person, in Zoom, by kismet, by intention, welcome. And if you're joining us on Zoom, you might notice it looks a little different. We have some Wi-Fi issues in our building this morning, but we're trying to do the best we can with a workaround. I'm Sue Livingston, a member of our celebrant team. Our minister, Reverend Paul Beckel, is on sabbatical. And with us today is our sabbatical minister, Reverend Dr. Barbara Wells Tenhoff. I'm happy to announce two events. Save the date, Saturday, June 4th, for Happy Days are here again. It's a happy hour and an auction here at Buff. Mayfair is kind of morphed to a June happy event. We also invite you to think of a treasure, a service, or a vacation stay you may want to donate to this important fundraiser. And keep an eye out, there will be a procurement form that will be emailed to you. There will be more details also in your order of service and upcoming. Next, the annual congregational, whoa, there's a Freudian slip. The annual congregational meeting will take place in person after the service on May 15th. It will include voting on our annual budget and electing Buff board members. And now, please settle back and take a moment of meditation while Andrea plays Arietta by Edvard Grieg. Beautiful, Andrea. Thank you. Well, good morning, beloved. As Sue mentioned, I'm the Reverend Dr. Barbara Wells Tenhoff, and it is my privilege and pleasure to serve as your sabbatical minister for Gulp 3 more Sundays, 2 more weeks. I'm glad to see so many of you here in the sanctuary, and for those of you out in Zoom land, we apologize for the complications. Hopefully you're getting a good experience as well. Now, I am really aware that I'm on that downward slope toward the end of Paul's sabbatical and the end of my ministry with you, because Paul will be back on April 24th. And next Sunday is Easter. And it's a great opportunity for us to gather and to celebrate and to honor that special time. We're going to be adding a few more pews back into the sanctuary, so there's going to be room for more of you. So continue to think about rejoining us here in person. I know Zoomland is great, but we don't get quite the technical difficulties if your tush is in the pew. Well, today's service celebrates awe, mystery, and wonder. And to help us think about this experience through our relationships with each other, let's sing a wonderful hymn written by my friend and Canadian Unitarian, Joyce Poley. When our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. It's number 1008, which is the blue hymnal. So please rise in body or spirit and let's sing together. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we hear faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our stories from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we hear the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts is within, and we feel the power in each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. Holy, holy place, holy place. We are blessed with love. Heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place.
On some morning in early spring, the heathers catch glow in grape and berry tones. Forsythia bursts sunshine. Peoria's slow swirl, a carousel of circus colors, cherry, chartreuse, viridian lemon. Virginia hoists crayon pink stalks. Viburnum sprays tiny purple jewels amidst its folded leaves. Fruit trees sprout fuzzy buds, burst pale blossoms, rain petal showers. Tulips lift vivid crowns. Rhodie buds fan open, seashell pinks to blood reds and mosaic the grass. Golden nuggets tucked in the hearts of ferns unfurl tender green fronds. Fuchsia magnolia dances the light, linked with deep scarlet Japanese maple stars. Lilac boughs breathe perfume. Every spring, my winter amnesia is taken by surprise. When some spring morning I arise to the parade, and once again, amazement in my own backyard. I dedicate our flaming chalice to ordinary moments of amazement that remind us of the vast wonder all around us. And we light a second candle for the soul and the spirit of the people of Ukraine. Please join me in saying our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation. This is our covenant. The following piece was written by William Schultz, the former president of the Unitarian Universalist Association and the former president of Amnesty International, USA. It's called All Means the Whole of Creation. Unitarian Universalism affirms that creation is too grand, complex, and mysterious to be captured in a narrow creed. That is why we cherish individual freedom of belief. At the same time, our convictions lead us to other affirmations that the blessings of life are available to everyone, not just the chosen or the saved. That creation itself is holy, the earth and all its creatures, the stars in all their glory. That the sacred and divine, the precious and profound, are made evident not in the miraculous or supernatural, but in the simple and the everyday. That human beings joined in collaboration with the gifts of grace are responsible for the planet and its future. That every one of us is held in creation's hand, a part of the interdependent cosmic web. And hence, strangers need not be enemies. That no one is saved until we all are saved, where all means the whole of creation. That the paradox of life is to love it all the more, even though we ultimately lose it.
Thank you, Sue, for that beautiful rendition of that great piece by Bill Schultz. All means the whole of creation, and we are all gathered wherever we come from, wherever we've been, wherever we're going. And in this place, you bring your whole selves so that you can be held in love and compassion. And one way we can do that is through what I call an embracing prayer. We've done this before, but it still might be new to some of you. There'll be an opportunity at a point during the prayer for you to call forth the names of people that you're holding in your heart. This is not like a milestone sharing where we expect to hear every name or everything. Rather, think of it as a tapestry of sound that we're creating together. It's a lovely way to honor the joys and sorrows that are in our hearts right now. And so I invite you, if you choose, to join with me in this time of embracing prayer. Gracious One, whom we call by many names, as the spirit of spring moves around us, the weather changing every 5 minutes, we are reminded not only of the great majesty and beauty of this natural world, as buds flower and wind blows and birds hatch, we're also reminded that our lives are constantly changing. We move from joy to sorrow in the blink of an eye. And that is as it should be. That is how we are made. It is what we are made for. When our hearts are open to joy, we recognize that there are people in our lives, perhaps even ourselves, who are experiencing joy. A blessing come to us, a birthday or an anniversary. If you or someone in your life is filled with joy or happiness or celebration or success, first call into your heart the spirit of that person, and then into your mind their face. And then, if you choose to put their name on your lips, to speak those names into the embrace of this community now. Jocko and Julie birthdays. Leslie. Knowing that there are others who would be in this room with joy with us, we celebrate it all and hold in great love the gifts and the blessings that we have received. And we know that our hearts may be filled with sorrow. Our friends are ill. Someone we love has died. We are worried or struggling. And certainly knowing that there is war and illness all around. If there is someone in your life or in your heart that you wish to bring into the embrace of this community, I invite you first to find their spirit in your heart. And then to bring their face into your mind. And then their name to your lips, to speak into the embrace of this community now. Knowing that there are others whose hearts are broken, who are grieving, who are sick and suffering, we bring them into this room as well and hold them with love and care as we hold each other. We know that where the holy lives is always a place of love. And this chant with Latin words speak to this. They mean where love is, there God dwells, or where charity abounds, there the holy resides. But we sing them, these simple words, ubi caritas et amor. Ubi caritas, Deus ibi est. I invite you to remain in your seats as we sing this chant together. It's in your blue hymnal if you wish to see the words. It's 1048. Ubi caritas et Ubi caritas Let's take a few deep breaths together. Not long ago, I was sitting in a quiet room with some good friends talking about God. This group of people was very diverse, racially, culturally, and in all other ways, but there was one thing we had in common. We were all active and committed Unitarian Universalists. Our views of God varied to some degree, including a few folks who were not comfortable with that old-fashioned and wounded word. Yet all of us had something to add to the conversation. All of us, it seems, knew something about mystery, about holiness, about faith. One friend in particular said it very well. Religion and spirituality spring from the place, he told us, where the awesome meets the familiar. Where the awesome meets the familiar. I immediately resonated with this wonderful way of describing spirituality. And describing spirituality is something I have done often in Unitarian Universalist settings. For you see, I believe in naming and claiming our faith as both intellectual and spiritual. And so, I do so this morning by exploring this wonderful expression, where the awesome meets the familiar. The word awesome has gotten a rather bad rap due to its incredible overuse. Wow, man, that was awesome. But let's let go of the sillier understanding of awesome and go straight to awe. Now, I would posit that most of us in this room have had a phone that rings when something meaningful is being said and done. And while we're waiting for all of you to get your phones out and turn them off or down, I'm going to get a drink of water. Now's your chance. So are we done with that? No more ringing of the phones? Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start again. I would posit, I love that word, posit. I would posit that most of us here in this room have at some point in our lives been touched by awe. I have heard many stories throughout my long years in the ministry of awe in the face of birth and death, stars and sea, love and even, in fact, especially loss. I've had my own experiences of awe, too, beginning with one that happened to me when I was just a kid. When I went to camp in the 5th or 6th grade, we took a hike in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, near where I grew up. Now, back then, and honestly kind of still, I was not at all outdoorsy. So I had no expectations of anything exciting except for maybe, if I was lucky, a peanut butter sandwich at the top. Instead, when I got to the top of that mountain, tired and out of breath, I was amazed at what I saw. I didn't really understand then what it meant to be awestruck. But that's exactly what happened to me. I was struck. It was like a physical thing. I was struck by awe. Everything I looked at was more alive, more beautiful, more perfect than anything I had ever seen before. For what seemed like an eternity or maybe a microsecond, I watched, and I knew that I was not alone, that the earth was alive, and that I belonged. I have never forgotten that experience. And it still returns to me when I feel the need to feel connected to what really matters. It was in every real way awesome. And it awoke in my child's heart, my Unitarian Universalist child's heart. I want to make sure you understand that I was not a Christian kid. I was a UU kid. And it awoke in my child's heart a longing and a sense of belonging and led me to deepen my belief in what I have learned and sometimes call God. My experience on that mountaintop is far from unique. Perhaps you have a story of awe, when you felt overtaken by that awful joy that is the mystery and wonder of life. And perhaps during coffee hour you might share if that's happened to you. But awe, it seems, doesn't always come easily to everyone. Perhaps this is because for many, the idea of awe can get caught up with fear. And awe has too often been used as a weapon. Human-made structures that we look on today as great examples of engineering or architecture, like the pyramids of Egypt and the cathedrals in Europe, were built to make ordinary humans feel small, and God or the king or the priest very great. It is not surprising then that the word awful has come to mean something terrible. But there are, of course, very powerful and positive ways to experience awe. Awe comes, I believe, when we face the mystery of our connectedness to all of life. And I felt that kind of awe on my mountain. But it can and does happen in many places. In essence, I believe that the kind of awe at the heart of our faith emerges when we feel deep in the well of our being that we belong, that our life matters, and that we and the earth and all of its creatures are one. This concept is Unitarian. You may remember Unitarian means one God, because our heritage and our faith reminds us that by whatever name we call the holy, it is at its essence one. We may use many names to speak of that oneness, but it is a powerful unity that we all can experience. When we feel that oneness, we can know the kind of awe that opens us to understanding, to a deeper understanding of what our life means, particularly in relationship to the rest of life on our planet. It can also open us up to the familiar, or as I prefer to call it, the humble. So let's take a look at humility. Humility is a far less comfortable topic for Unitarian Universalists, even than awe. As a group, we are not the most humble of people. And I include myself in this. Those of you who've been working with me these last 4 months will know. So I'm not pointing fingers at anybody else. But religiously, humility may be even more loaded with baggage than awe. For many of us, humility in the face of God conjures up people prostrate in front of altars, flagellating themselves or feeling pressured to confess to imagined sins for the sake of absolution. But, like awe, humility has a strong part to play in our faith. My father taught me that humility has a profoundly simple definition. To be humble, he told me, was to remain teachable. To remain teachable. Whenever we think we know it all, real humility reminds us to stay open and willing to learn. The late Unitarian Universalist minister and popular author Forrest Church believed that accepting our mortality forces us to stay humble. All of us are finite, and we are not God. I'm going to say that again to remind us all, we are not God. As Forrest put it in his book, Bringing God Home, life requires a measure of humility, and we too can lift up our sights by lowering our pretensions. Humility is one way to stay grounded. Humility invites us to always remain open to what the world has to teach us and not be afraid to say we don't know. In her book, Kitchen Table Wisdom, author Rachel Naomi Remen echoes this sentiment. She writes, as a physician, I was trained to deal with uncertainty as aggressively as I dealt with the disease itself. The unknown was the enemy. The words, I don't know, had long been my statement of shame, of personal and professional failing. Yet in dealing with illness and dying, Raymond began to open herself to the awe-filled mystery inherent in life and death. Rather than trying to explain away the strange, wonderful, and powerful feelings that death and healing evoked, she began to just let it be. I no longer feel that life is ordinary, she writes. Every day is filled with mystery. She concludes with these words. In some fairy tales, there is a magic word which has the power to undo the spell that has imprisoned someone and free them. Usually the words were some kind of nonsense, like Shazam. My magic words have turned out to be, I don't know. The magic words, I don't know, are at the essence of both awe and humility. They are also at the heart of our faith. Well, how, might you ask? When we approach the universe with awe, while our first response can and should be, wow, perhaps our second response should be, I don't know. Not knowing does not mean not appreciating, or does not, I'm always bad with the double negatives. I think you know what I mean. It simply allows us to acknowledge the mystery of life without apology. When we say, I don't know, with awe, we accept that life and creation are mysterious and wonder-filled, and that we cannot ever know everything about them. Thus, as Bill Schultz reminded us in the reading, we have a faith that affirms that creation is too grand and complex to be defined by narrow creeds. And when we say with humility, I don't know, we acknowledge that there is still more to learn and to admit, I just get so excited, I just get ahead of myself. So when we say with humility, I don't know, we acknowledge that there is still more to learn and that we do not know it all, and that revelation is not sealed. Thus, we have a faith that affirms that spiritual growth is a continuing process of learning and growing. Now, I don't know about you, but I find saying, I don't know, a very hard thing to do. We live in a world where knowledge is power, and to admit our ignorance about something may seem weak, even stupid. Yet doesn't it make more sense to tell the truth as we know it, as we may not know it? I don't know. These three little magic words may be at the heart of real faith. For they challenge us to meet mystery with an open heart, even as we ask hard questions that deepen our understanding and broaden our knowledge. I believe that a willingness to be unsure is critical to our spiritual well-being. As a religious tradition, we Unitarian Universalists at least try to acknowledge that there are things we don't know and to accept that others may experience the world differently than we do. Yet there are times, even within our liberal faith, that we fall into the trap of thinking we know it all, when we are absolutely, positively sure we are right. And Lord knows, as a minister, I've been on the receiving end, and I have to admit on the giving end, of someone saying, you know, it is exactly this. God cannot be that. We have to believe this, even in UU circles. It's not something that just conservative religious people do. We do it too. So when we fall into the trap of thinking that we know it all, let's return to awe and humility. Whenever I'm tempted to want to say that my way is right and you are wrong, I try to remember to take a deep breath and say, I don't know. I don't know. I try to face the mystery of life with a sense of awe, and my own place in it with an attitude of humility. I try to remain teachable and to stay open to this amazing and wonderful world in which we live. Or to put it another way, these words from the late Unitarian Universalist minister David Eaton say it well. All living substance, all substance of energy and being and purpose are united and share the same destiny. All people, those we love and those we know not of, are united and share the same destiny. Birth, life, death. Unknown, known, unknown. Our destiny from unknown to unknown. May we have faith to accept this wonderful mystery and build upon its everlasting truth. Well, mystery and truth can combine to create powerful connections to all that is and help us grow in our spiritual understanding. Thus, it is here that my friend's view of faith as the place where the awesome meets the familiar becomes very true for me. For Unitarian Universalists and for many others who follow an open-hearted approach to religion, the world is not a bad place, fallen from the Lord's good graces. To us, the world and everything in it can be approached with awe. For we have learned that the holy dwells not just in the realm of the unknown, but in the here and now, in this place, in this moment, right now, here among us. It can be hard to feel this sometimes, for much of life seems mundane, routine, far from holy. Yet by cultivating a sense of awe, we have the opportunity to look at the world with new eyes. Rachel Naomi Raymond tells the story of the Christian mystic Teresa of Avila. Teresa had difficulty in reconciling the vastness of the life of the Spirit with the mundane tasks of her convent, the washing of pots, the sweeping of floors, the folding of laundry. At some point of grace, the mundane became for her a sort of prayer, a way she could experience her ever-present connection to the divine pattern, which is the source of life. She began then to see the face of God in the folded sheets. Now, we may not see God in the sheets, but perhaps we can find something of the holy in a child's smile, in the unfolding blossoms, in the aching beauty of a spring sunrise. And we are, I believe, more likely to encounter the mystery and wonder of life if we approach the world in humble ways. There is much about life and the living of it that we just don't know. All the tools at our disposal, the scientific method, higher criticism, business plans, etc., can't explain why our heart aches when we see a loved one in pain, or why our world shakes when we hear our newborn baby cry. Facing the enormous mystery of life and death with, I don't know, humbly on our lips, is a religious posture that works. We can, as one of my favorite poets says, live the questions with humility wonder, and joy. To live in the place where the awesome meets the familiar is to go against much of what our modern world expects of us. Arrogance is far more popular than humility, and awe is too often reserved for celebrity sightings. Yet I would argue that the religious path offers us a better way to navigate through the shoals of modern life. Cultivating a spirit of awe does not require a traditional belief in God or the afterlife. Cultivating a spirit of humility does not mean debasing oneself in fear. The Spirit only requires of us a willingness to remain open to all that life has to teach us, and to accept that the mystery of life is not something to be afraid of. Indeed, it is something to be revered. Look around you. Look around you. See the beauty and wonder of this place and its people, of this world and its creatures. Can we approach this day with awe? Can we approach each other with humility? These two pillars of the faithful life can serve us well, particularly if we remain willing to say with awe and humility these awesome and familiar magic words, I don't know. Well done. Well, let's sing a beautiful piece written, the words are written by Theodore Parker, but the music by Tom Benjamin, who is a retired professor of music from the school in Baltimore. Which one is that? The music school. In Baltimore? I don't know. It was a famous music school in Baltimore. And he wrote great music. This song, 1058, Be Hours of Religion. Let's rise in body or spirit. We're going to sing it through twice. It's a short one.
In 2017, when 43 of us, the Bellingham Choir and friends, made a pilgrimage to Transylvania to connect with our Unitarian roots, we made a tour stop in the village of Najoita, where the Reverend Fakata Leventa, who you could call Levi Black in English, gave us a stole and a tour of the church and a song. That was a fortified medieval church. The walls were this thick, and there was a graveyard and a community space between the church and this fort of a wall with a tower. It was on the top of a hill. And that community had the history of having to defend themselves over the centuries from, you name it, Transylvania, the crossroads of invasion. That part of the world is right next to Ukraine. It was hungry for many years, and the people there are very, very loyal to their land. That land is their center to the people that speak their language, in this case Hungarian, and to their religion, which is Unitarian. It's where Unitarianism started. And this song that Levi gave us is called My Oath. He wrote the words and the music. He says, I pledge my loyalty to my land. I pledge my loyalty to my people, and I pledge my loyalty to my God. And we think that this is exactly how the Ukrainians, just a few miles north of there, feel. So I'm going to sing this oath to you in Hungarian, channeling Reverend Levi. Hilleszek fültűz, mely taplal és eltakar. Hilleszek népemhez, mely ítélni akar. Hilleszek Istenhez, ki mindig számon tart. Gondban és sürümben áldással elszétart. Ás erőt, ás hitet, a bajban hűséget, áldát vil népenek, reményt és életet. Ás erőt, ás hitet, a bajban hűséget, áldát vil népenek, reményt és életet. We continue a connection with the Unitarians in Transylvania through our partner church, and we have a committee here who I would like to acknowledge their work. There are about 8 or 10 of us who find ways to support each other and learn from each other, and the chair and member of that committee are Reka Zoltan and George Bohr, who are going to come now to speak a little bit about the collection and our connection.
My brother Zsombor and I were born after World War II at a refugee camp in Germany. Our mother passed away, and we were in an orphanage. Our father obtained a sponsorship from the Unitarian Church for us to go to America. We know how difficult it is for the Ukrainian refugees as we are communicating with the Unitarian Church and relatives in Transylvania. They desperately need help to help the Ukrainian refugees who are now in dire need and are still arriving.
I was born in Hungary, and at the time it was a communist country. After several tries, I managed to escape and ended up in a refugee camp in Italy. After about 8 months in that camp, I arrived to New York City, and it took about 18 years before I could go back home to visit again. It was not easy to start a new life in a new country and starting all over again. And Hungarian and Transylvanian Unitarian Church is working on helping the refugees coming from Ukraine. And we are asking the Buff community to help out as much as they can, knowing that the refugees' life is not an easy one. So we're trying to help the Ukrainian refugees who are already there and many more on the way. Thank you.
Today's collection is going to the Unitarian Church of Hungary and to Transylvania. And anything you put in the plate or that you send in as you are instructed online will go to that special collection unless you designate it otherwise. So thank you. This agency has been vetted by the Unitarian Service Committee and the Unitarian Association International Office. This is where they say we should send our money. It's directly connected to us as Unitarians between the countries, and they vet they have vouched for their effectiveness, and we appreciate your donation. The music that Andrea is going to play is a Ukrainian folk song.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you all for your generosity. There is so much sadness and brokenness in this world. There is too much pain and struggle. There is hatred and war. All of that is true. there is more love than we will ever find. For here we are, and here we shall go forth, trying to make a difference in this broken and battered world of ours, doing what we can with what little knowledge we have, opening our hearts to awe and wonder, acknowledging our mistakes with humility. It is indeed a blessing to be alive at this time. And so I invite Sue to extinguish the flame in our chalice, the symbol of our beloved faith, knowing that we carry that light with us wherever we go, and lighting it for all those we pass. And now let us circle round for freedom, circle round for peace. As we do each week, for those of you new among us, this is hymn number 155 in your gray hymnal. We sing it every Sunday. It's a beautiful way to end our service together.